Hugh Douglas, we start with the good, and the good was on the offensive side of the football, and the good was with the quarterback last night. How about Tanner McKee, Hugh, a guy, and all right, I'll give it up. I mean, someone around here has been calling him the future for a while. Hugh Douglas, your guy. He is officially your guy. Tanner McKee last night didn't just play well. He lit up the Cincinnati Bengals, who played a bunch of starters, 20 of 25, 252 yards, 3 total touchdowns, including a tush-push touchdown. Hugh, what'd you think of last night, and what'd you think of your guy, Tanner McKee?
Well, I've always said he was a future. Now, his future, I don't know where that is, but it's always good to have a competent backup quarterback.
Totally.
And Tanner looks like he's that guy. You know, when you talk about the small sampling size that we saw last night, he did a really good job. He moved the football. He put points on the board, man, and he got the ball out of his hands quick.
Well, he did, and it's a continuation of what we've seen the last couple preseasons, where I think, if last night was the first time we watched the guy play, like, maybe there's something there, but we've seen him play a little bit last few years, right? He was here for 3 years now, and we saw him play in the preseason a few years ago, along when it was Marcus Mariota as the backup. We saw him play last year in the preseason when it was Kenny Pickett as the backup quarterback, and then when Pickett got hurt late last season, when he had to come in for Jalen, we saw McKee play in a regular season game. So we've seen a little bit of Tanner McKee. So I don't think we were did a lot of good things. I mean, we're talking about a guy who pushed the ball down the field, gave his guys a chance at 50-50 balls. The other thing that is pretty noticeable about him in all the times we watched him play, he gets the ball out of his hands quickly. I mean, there's something here. I mean, the Eagles this is a great job by the Eagles to find this guy in the 6th round. He did not have a decorated college career. In fact, he had a very almost forgettable college career. He don't do anything. He barely had a 2-to-1 touchdown interception ratio. He won 6 games. Like, typically, these guys don't become good NFL quarterbacks. But right now, it looks like they have a guy that if they needed him, could win a decent amount of football games. And Hugh Douglas, the question is this now, because you just never know in the NFL when you're going to need your backups. You're never going to know how important they're going to be. Hugh, and this is a hypothetical, and let's hope we never get to this point, but if...
People hate hypotheticals.
If the Eagles needed Tanner McKee to play, let's say, the entire season, do you still think they would be a playoff team? Are you confident the Eagles could be a playoff team? Is he that solid that they could be a playoff team with Tanner McKee?
I think that Tanner McKee would be good enough to make it to the playoffs, yes. But, I know you didn't ask me this, but I'm going to tell you because I think I need to say this because I know what's about to happen.
It doesn't matter.
It really doesn't matter.
All I hear is you are confident that they'd be a playoff team.
I think that they would be a playoff team, but they wouldn't be a dynamic playoff team. They would probably be a team that gets into the playoffs and goes home in the first round.
But a playoff team. Well, that's pretty big.
Commit.
That's pretty big.
No, I mean that's
pretty big.
Because listen to what I'm saying, y'all. Because I already know how this is going to go. I think Tanner McKee is a good football player, a good quarterback in small sampling sizes, and I think that this offense and these players around him are good enough that you could get in the playoffs. Now, the dynamic part comes in when you get in the playoffs. I don't think that he has that he's going to get you to the promised land. I don't think he's going to do that now. But
it's still pretty big to say a playoff team with a guy that has not started but one game in the NFL and really lit up a bad defense last night. Here's where I'm at 215-592-9494. I saw something last night. Well, I saw 2 things. One, I saw Tanner McKee play very well, which was awesome to see, and it's great to see that we have ourselves a good backup quarterback. But I saw this last night, a poll question from our guy Jack Fritz on the afternoon show. In your opinion, how many wins would the Eagles have with McKee at quarterback this year? And he was basically asking the question in a different way than I said it, which was, if you had to play the whole season. But that's what the question references. 58% of the people said 10 or 11 plus wins, like 10 or more wins. 29% voted 10. 29% voted 11 plus. That means 58% of people on this poll, which is like 5,000 votes, thinks that Tanner McKee would lead the Eagles to a 10-7 or better record if he had to play every game this year. Look, I like what I saw last night. I like Tanner McKee, and I think he's a nice story. I think we are going way overboard, and I think that all of this reaction, and I'm not quite saying Hugh Douglas, but kind of saying Hugh Douglas, is kind of disrespectful to Jalen Hurts. We have spent the entire offseason debating how good he is. And every time someone says he's the 9th best quarterback or 6th best quarterback or 7th and not 1, 2, 3, or 4, people have a conniption around here. But now all of a sudden, Tanner McKee could lead them to similar success. Their win total in Vegas right now on FanDuel is 11.5. So what I'm hearing and seeing from a lot of people is that there's not really a difference between Jalen Hurts.
No, there is.
Well, but if 58% of people think he could win 10 or 11 games, the Vegas win total is telling us that the Eagles are probably going to win about 11 games. That's what they're projected to win. So if people think they'd win 10 or 11 with McKee, then the only thing I can take away from that is people are saying he could have very similar success.
Because you don't have vision.
No, I mean, I have math. I have math.
That's why I'm sitting in this chair, Joe, because, yeah, you're right. Do I think Tanner McKee can win you 10 football games? Yes, I do. And I'm going off of the fact that I remember when Donovan got hurt.
Yeah.
Donovan, I was about to say Donovan.
Well, you did say you're going to make up some new words.
Yeah, I just made it up.
Change the man's name.
But Donovan was a dynamic quarterback.
Yes.
And when Donovan got hurt, I'll never forget it. We were in the locker room, and I remember Joe Banner comes in, and he's having a conniption because we were a playoff team.
0-2, you're talking about 0-2?
Yeah. And he was just like, oh, my God, what are we going to do now? Coy went in.
Yeah.
And Coy gets hurt. Now A.J. Philly's in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what tends to happen is this. You knowing that your dynamic quarterback is not out there. So you elevate your game a little bit more to help make his job easier.
Sure.
And that's on the defensive side of the ball, and that's on the offensive side of the ball, because we know that he's serviceable, but he's limited in the things that he could do. Now, I feel like with his skill set and the way that they're probably going to craft this offense around him.
And the weapons he has, right?
Yes,
yeah,
they're gonna make it easier for him to do that. The biggest thing that I look at when I look at the teams that we're gonna face going into this season, and Tanner McKee, okay, the first thought is, how many teams are going to be able to stop him from throwing the quick passing game?
Which he gets the ball out of his hands quickly, which
Tampa
is an
Bay,
asset.
Tampa Bay. I would probably say Kansas City off the top of my head. Maybe he'll have some trouble with
Denver,
the Rams.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe.
Rams.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So that's how you look at that. So that's what I look at when I think of that, because this team is going to step their game up to try to protect their quarterback as much as they can, because he's not as dynamic as a Jalen Hurts.
215-592-9494. I think there's a little bit of people going overboard. I like McKee, and I think he's a good backup quarterback, but he's not Jalen Hurts, and I'm not confident the Eagles would be a playoff team if McKee had to play all the games. And I can't believe that might be the opposite of what the majority is today, because Tanner McKee has barely played in the NFL. Jalen Hurts, I actually, for everyone out there that has voted or chimed in some form on this the last couple hours, and now on our show, if you really believe the Eagles could win 11 or more games with Tanner McKee, what you're saying is you don't really think Jalen Hurts has that big of a role in this. I mean, that's fine if you believe that.
See, you just broke it down to the...
Well, I mean, I think the whole thing is disrespectful to Jalen Hurts. I mean, that is true if people believe that. I am not confident they'd be a playoff team if it was McKee. Can I just point out a couple things? He played well last night. He throws a nice ball. He gets the ball out of his hands quickly. He was this close to 2 interceptions. There was one early where Johnny Wilson jumped over the corner and kind of took it out of his hands, but that ball was going into the hands of a Bengals corner. He had position.
So we got great receiver play.
Well, they got a good play by Johnny, and maybe that corner stinks. But
that's interesting.
The ball went off the Bengals corner's hands and then was taken out by Johnny Wilson. And then the second one, I mean, Ross Tucker said in the broadcast that Tanner wants that throw back. I mean, he threw it into triple coverage, and the ball should have been picked off. I mean, we were this close to 2 picks from our guy last night, Tanner McKee, and then the whole conversation is different. 215-592-9494. Let's hear from Nick Sirianni on the performance last night of his number 2 quarterback.
Nick, how do you think Tanner played tonight?
Played pretty good.
Let's see, but a little bit more as far as what he did well.
He played good. No, he did a lot of good things. Went to the right place with the football, was accurate. Ran, had really good operation. Him and Kevin, a lot of communication, and Scott. He did a really nice job.
Nick's been around here long enough. He's not going to add any sort of extra.
He already knew what was happening.
Yeah.
He knew what was happening.
Well, he can feel it.
We do this all the time. And I get it, because first preseason game, we get to see him in a small sampling size. We're excited. I still believe in Tanner McKee, no question about it. But
the future.
Unquantifiable intangibles that I always talk about, that's what Jalen has. I think this team is good enough and they have enough talent. So, yeah, you can make it to the playoffs. but you need somebody that's going to get you over the top.
Well, yeah. Well, and here's the thing. I'm not even confident they make the playoffs with Tanner McKee. He's a backup quarterback. And also, I think all the things Jalen Hurts does that we don't talk about until it's time to talk about, Tanner McKee doesn't do that. The run ability, the ability to change the play at the line of scrimmage, to get them in the right play, to freeze the defense. I mean, Tanner brings very little of that to the table. He's just a different kind of player. I think the A.J. Feely comp that Hugh made is a great one. And if we have a moment this season where Jalen misses some time, which he has missed, he's missed parts of seasons all the time, right? A game here, a game there. I think they could win a few games and hold the fort with Tanner McKee. They've got something here. But the idea, if they needed Tanner for the full season, that they'd definitely be a playoff team, I don't believe that for a second. All right, can we hear Greg Cosell? He was recently on with Colin Cowherd, and he was speaking about Jalen Hurts. But really the way he talked about Hurts and the team kind of makes you think if they had to go to a guy like McKee, how many games they could win. Here's Cosell a couple days ago.
Well, I think every quarterback for the most part, and it becomes a function in many ways of their team, and Hurts is very much that kind of player. When you think about the Eagles and how they won a year ago the Super Bowl, my guess is most people, the first thing they say is not, boy, that's Jalen Hurts' team. I mean, this was a team with a running back that had a historical season. They've got the best O-line in football. They had the best defense in football. Jalen Hurts is a piece of a really good team, and they do a lot of things that are difficult to defend. But if you're comparing him to, let's say, the quarterbacks that we think of as being the elite guys that can, in a sense, be the guys that win games by themselves, he probably does not fall into that category.
Well, I agree with that. And I agree with the assessment there of Jalen Hurts and what last year was. But he does bring a lot to the table that people always want to argue with me that he brings. And I agree with a lot of that. I just think we are going a touch overboard with the Tanner McKee thing. 215-592-9494 gets you aboard here on this Friday. Right, let's talk about the game last night, the play of Tanner McKee. And in a hypothetical world, if they needed him for an entire season, are you still confident they'd be a playoff team? Hugh Douglas is. It thinks they could win about 10 games. I'm not. I'm not confident they'd win that many games if Tanner McKee had to play 17 of these. Kyle, where do you come down? It feels like an August ritual here. There's someone that pops and is a backup quarterback. Kyle,
August ritual.
Tanner time. What'd you think?
Yep, and Hugh Douglas hates Jalen Hurts.
Put the headlines up.
Clearly. Yep.
Is that that's what I do?
What I heard you say is don't need him, can win without him.
That's what everyone's going to hear.
Tanner all the way.
I know. It's because nobody has vision.
Well,
That's
because
right.
we're seeing through the tape.
And you know
Is
what
that
I
what it
realized,
is?
Joe?
Wait, what's that?
We should listen to Hugh more often.
Well, let's stop.
Tanner McKee might be the future of the NFL.
let's
No.
stop.
But to be realistic, of course they'd be a playoff team with Tanner McKee. Like, have you seen this roster?
Sure, I have. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I mean,
and last year's team may have been a playoff team with Tanner McKee. We'll see what this team
okay,
is.
right. But
I got corners
we'll
out
see
there
what the
getting
defense
torched.
is, right? But you mentioned that some receivers are making some pretty good plays for him and stuff like that. Like, that's how it works with the Eagles. Like, Greg Cosell said it, and Cam Newton. I know everyone was very upset with what Cam Newton said a few weeks ago, but like the Eagles don't require elite quarterback play to win football games.
That's true.
They just don't. And Tanner McKee might not be as good as Jalen Hurts.
Might not. Hold on. Might not be.
That's
he's not.
Yeah. Okay.
He's not.
Fine. If you want to play semantics, he's not. But could Tanner McKee do enough to get the Eagles with as good of a roster as they are to the playoffs? Of course he can. What do they ask Jalen Hurts to do? Not turn the football over. They don't need him to go out there and throw for 300, 400 yards for them to win football games.
They also ask him to run a lot. He runs a lot. Tanner McKee has very little of that ability.
I don't know if they ask him to run a lot. He does run a lot.
But he provides a lot in the run game.
No, we did the tush push.
But
we did score.
I also think we overrate just how much that affects or adds to what Saquon Barkley is able to do. Like, Saquon Barkley behind this offensive line would be a outstanding running back, regardless of who's a quarterback, I think. And the fact they have A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and that offensive line, of course the Eagles could win 10, 11 games with Tanner McKee at quarterback. And they're not winning the Super Bowl with Tanner McKee. But for them to be a playoff team with the way Tanner McKee plays, just get the ball to the playmakers and not turn the football over, like that's a no-brainer. Of course they would be a playoff team.
Yeah, it's not a no-brainer for me. In fact, I'm not even confident they would do anything like that. Again, their win total on FanDuel is 11.5. So the idea they just would win 11 games with Tanner McKee basically is saying Jalen Hurts is a half a win. I don't believe that. As much as I try to infuse some reality to the Jalen Hurts conversation, he's a very good NFL quarterback. I had him ranked the 6th best quarterback in the whole NFL. Tanner McKee's not even a starter yet. Now, as Hugh has mentioned, he might be a team starter one day. I think there's an A.J. Feely thing to this. Mm-hmm. But I've seen this before. I mean, what was it, 7 years ago? Nate Sudfeld was the team's number 2 or 3, and he was lighting up the preseason. He was like, oh, my goodness, maybe the Eagles have another starting quarterback. He wasn't. I like McKee. Feels a little overboard. I mean, 58% on Jack's poll think 10 or 11 wins. You guys are nuts. 215-592.
They're all frauds, by the way.
Well, I know, because that means
total frauds.
What that is saying is you don't believe in Jalen. I mean, I'm.
Well, it might not be they don't believe in Jalen, but it's
they don't think he's that.
They
important.
don't think he's as good as they pretended that he was all season.
Right. There's something that doesn't add up to me. If you are saying, Giglio, you're an idiot. He's the second best quarterback in the NFL, or wherever you want to put him, Allen, Burrow, whatever. But then at the same time say, yeah, they could win almost as many games with Tanner McKee.
No, see, I think this is the way I looked at it when the question was presented to me. You said, could he make it to the playoffs? Yes. Could he win you a Super Bowl? Nah. He's not doing that. Like that's the difference for me in Tanner McKee. Can he get us in the big dance? Can he get us to the playoffs and be a playoff team? No question.
Yeah,
I think he can do that.
I'm not even sure of that.
I don't think he can get like some of the things that like Jalen did some things last year that kind of flew. Like you could say if you want to make that argument that he had probably 2 or 3 good games the whole season,
really high level,
high level games.
Yeah, with some Bengals game, Steelers game.
But one of those high level games was the Super Bowl.
Well, it was, yeah.
It was. I don't think you get that from Tanner McKee.
Look, I think in a short sample, Tanner is going to be an asset to the Eagles. I mean, he already is an asset as a very cheap and under control backup quarterback. But the idea that all of a sudden he could come in and they could replicate the wins, I think is actually a slight to Jalen Hurts. And I think we're going a little overboard with our guy Tanner McKee. Where do you come down after last night?